everyone, and welcome to another episode of Longley's Line Podcast. I am, of course, your host, Stephen Longley. Today, I have a very special guest, Mr. Eddie Blake.
I
Eddie,
appreciate
thank you for being here.
Appreciate you for having me, man. So,
Of course.
I know we talked about you having starting a podcast a while ago when we met. So, like, I'm super proud to see what you've done, man.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
I appreciate it. Now we're actually cooking. It's been going for a little while now, but now we've got video and everything, and it's kind of slowly starting to take off. And it's always fun when I talk to people. I'm like, oh yeah, I got a podcast recording, and they'll look over like, you do a podcast? I'm like, yeah. And then I'll just pull up all my stuff and was like, please just go subscribe.
Yeah.
Because I need those numbers. We're in the rookie numbers right now. We got to boost them right up.
Every like helps, all right?
Helps as much as we can. So on that topic, before we get cooking, promote all your social medias and where you'd like everybody to find you.
You can find me on Instagram, Eddie Blake Comedian, or I am on the TikTok with Comedian Eddie Blake, changing it up a little bit for you. So I mostly do behind-the-scenes production work, but from time to time I find myself in front of the camera and posting my own stuff. So
yeah. And do you do stand-up comedy or more just kind of?
So my background is in stand-up comedy for sure, but I am a fan of close-up comedy where it's really hard to find a way to do that in a venue, but I love interacting with people face-to-face and making like an individual laugh. So I know a lot of people bring up my hand tattoos, so it's really fun to be able to tell somebody that they're doing a good job on a random basis or something like that. But I do some hosting from time to time as well. Okay. There's a local burlesque troupe that we've helped out with a lot, Sweet and Lethal. I've hosted one of their shows.
Okay.
They're over at the Polo Lounge every third Thursday of the month. So, and then I've done some work with Bohemian Burlesque as well. They're just amazing people. They do a show probably like once every quarter.
And you're just the host, kind of bringing everybody out, getting the crowd riled up.
So for that one,
like
I'll their main host. Sometimes he's got to do like a costume change and stuff like that. So I'll tell a joke or get the crowd just revved up a little bit, and then for them, I'm a lot more behind the scenes for them on doing lights and sound and that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But they've got a show coming up on May 4th over at Coffee and Comics on Bering. I will be co-hosting that, and I will be doing a little song and dance myself. So, I'm gonna bust it out. So,
not to give the act away, but what does the song and dance kind of consist of?
So, it's a nerdy theme. So the show's called Talk Nerdy to Me. So I'm definitely gonna whip out a little bit of my nerdity. I'll do a Ghostbusters theme. So just everybody loves a man in uniform, right? So
I mean, who are you going to call?
Yeah, this guy. That's right.
So we'll go back a little bit.
Yeah.
So where are you from originally?
So I was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay. Born in a little trailer in a small town. But
big city.
Yeah, big city dreams. So growing up in Vegas was really eye-opening in a way because you get to meet so many different people from so many walks of life. Like you're not like I currently live in Fallon. It's a small town. It's a great town, nice people, but you're not going to meet somebody from Nigeria when you're in Fallon. So like one thing I've noticed about people is they love to talk about their experiences. They love to be open about things. So all you have to do is like sit and listen, and you can hear different perspectives and different viewpoints, and it's really cool. So I think growing up in Vegas gave me that opportunity. So I was actually raised Buddhist. My mom was a real big like Nam-myoho Renge Kyo New Age kind of person. So I think that definitely helped in changing my viewpoints on the world and whatnot.
Give you more of the spiritual, somewhat vibe and kind of.
I think it was more of a like an internal, introspective kind of deal. Like so, when you talk about when you talk about like prayer, right? A lot of people, they're like, oh, I want that new job, or I want that new car, or I want that new thing that I think will give me a better status, kind of deal. Whereas being raised Buddhist, their teaching was a little more, if you want that thing, ask for the determination.
Okay.
Ask for the wisdom, ask for the drive to go get that thing or to be that type of person. And I think throughout my life, I've tried to be that way. Like whenever I'm in a confrontation with somebody, I'll try to like sit back and say, okay, am I wrong? Or I wasn't wrong, but could I have handled that better? Could I have been kinder to the person while we're talking? That kind of a thing. So I think growing up that way gave me that sort of perspective.
A little more perspective on it. And then, so you're growing up in the big melting pot of Vegas. When you're younger, high school, all of that time, did you have a career path that you wanted to follow?
Yeah. So growing up, I was always the bigger kid. I was always a little overweight, and I was always taller than the rest of the kids. So like more times than not, I'd get picked on, or like somebody sees the big kid, they're like, oh, I'm gonna take the big kid down, so I'm now the big kid kind of deal. So like I got beat up a lot as a kid. So I spent a lot of time alone, in my room watching movies and just absolutely. So like I would be in my room just watching a scene over and over and over again, and like mimicking the mannerisms of like Robin Williams and Jim Carrey and that kind of stuff. And I think that kind of like gave me a little bit of confidence to be able to act out kind of stuff. And I wanted to get into stand-up comedy and telling jokes kind of stuff.
Okay.
So, but growing up, I was very, very poor. My mom worked 2 jobs. Dad was not there.
Sure.
So when like she had her day job was working at a hotel. Her night job was working at McDonald's. And whenever you worked at McDonald's, you get like a free meal. And she would always bring the free meal home to me and my sister, kind of deal.
Yeah.
So when I was like in elementary school or whatever, we qualified for like free lunches and stuff. So I actually learned how to talk to people and almost like be kind of a sales pitch type of person, because I'd get a free lunch and I'd say, oh, hey, kid, you're going to go buy that lunch. It's going to cost you $5. Let's say I go get that lunch for you. You give me $4, and then you can use that extra $1 to go buy some ice cream or whatever. And then now I've got $4 in my pocket.
Yeah.
I could usually buy something cheap to eat that day for like $1 or $2, and then I'd have like some extra money. So I realized kind of quickly, like if you can talk to people and get them on your side kind of deal, like they'll want to like listen to you kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
But then around junior high and a little into high school, I started learning like sleight of hand magic tricks.
Okay.
And learning how to juggle and that kind of stuff. And so I'd go down to Fremont Street, and like on Friday, Saturday nights, I'd just stand there telling little jokes here and there, doing sleight of hand magic tricks, juggling, and like making people laugh just for a couple of bucks. And so like, when you're less than 15, you can't get a real job. So it was very helpful in, one, just giving me the things that I needed, but then 2, giving me the confidence to like walk into any situation.
Yeah. It reminds me, just watched the movie recently in The Greatest Showman. The kid's growing up poor, all he's seeing is these huge mansions that his dad's working at.
Yeah.
Then his dad passes away and he's on his own and he's selling newspaper, or he's trying to get some food and eat, and then he sees all these newspapers people are just throwing away, and he's like, I can sell these, and then starts making that career path and being more of a salesman and figuring out how the world works and making a buck for himself.
Yeah. Well, P.T. Barnum was a big influence, I think, on like my way of thinking of things, because like he's definitely selling you something. He's not exactly conning you, because he's giving you exactly what he told you he was going to give you, right?
Yeah.
So like one of my things is I hate being bored, right?
Sure.
I'm the type of person that I like, if you are bored, it's kind of because you're boring, right?
Sure.
So the wife and I were at a coffee shop once where they were doing some sort of clothing exchange, and like I love spending time with my wife, but I kind of had nothing to do there. So I grabbed a piece of paper and I put a little sign up that said palm reading $5. And I put it on the end of the table, and I just minded my own business, drinking my coffee. But if people came up and wanted a palm reading, I gave them one, right? So they'd put their $5 on the table, and I'd say, "Okay, you ready for a palm reading?" And they're like, "Yes." And so they put up their palm, and I put up my palm, and it says "Good job." It says "Good job" on my palm. So it's like, "Hey, there you go, good job. You just read a palm."
Appreciate that.
Yeah, but like, I wasn't conning them or lying to them. I gave them.
You said what you were doing.
Exactly. I gave them a palm reading.
Yeah.
So,
so back in high school, you start getting into more close-up magic. Do you decide to do anything on stage while you're at school? Do you go out for plays, talent shows, anything of that nature?
yeah. So, in high school is when I decided like, oh, I'm actually gonna get into plays. So like, I had to get 2 electives, and so I decided, well, I like spending time in the theater. So my first elective was in the acting portion of theater, and then my second elective at the end of the day was the sort of tech portion of theater, and that's where I learned a little bit about lighting a stage and proper chord management and like working with sound and that kind of stuff. So, but I was never a real shy kid when I was in the theater. So I would audition for any part that I actually wanted, not exactly the parts that I could probably play. So like we did Annie one year, and of course when I go show up to the auditions, I'm dressed to the part that I want.
Going out for Annie, yeah.
Oh yeah, big red fro and my dress and the whole nine. And I didn't get the part, but I got cast as FDR for that play.
Okay.
And then they wanted to
get in that part though.
Oh yeah, no, it would have been a completely different show.
It would have been a game
And
changer.
The thing about me is I might not be what you expect, but I will commit wholeheartedly. And case in point, we did another show in high school. It was the complete works of William Shakespeare abridged, right? But it was all of little sketches from all of his plays, but they were comedies, right?
Okay.
And so we get to the part of Romeo and Juliet. And so the theater teacher, Miss L, she was great. I absolutely adored her. But she, from time to time, would get a little perturbed at me.
Sure.
I wasn't acting out or being rude, but I would be loud, right? So, so some of the ladies would go up to audition for the role of Juliet. And then when they were done, she wasn't exactly happy with their performance, but she'd like, "Thank you very much," and she'd try to call up the next person, and I was there with my hand up.
Right here.
And she knew my hand was up, and she'd just put your hand down. I'm like, all right. So the next one would go up, and she'd do it pretty much the exact same thing the last girl did. And I was like, all right, fine. I put my hand up, and eventually, after a little while, she's like, fine, just to shut you up, just so you'll knock it off, go up there, get up there, and do it.
Yeah.
All right, fine. So I get up there. I don't even need the script because I've heard the ladies do it several times, and so I just bust out with, "Oh, Romero, Romero, wherefore art thou, Romero? Deny thy father, or refuse thy name, or if thou wilt not, be but sworn by love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet." So it's supposed to be a comedy, right? So that's how I played it, and she's like, reluctantly, she gave me the part.
It was like, do you think this is West Side Story? Are we in Brooklyn? This is ancient Greece, but it's a comedy. So
Well,
you gotta take this.
The fair city of Verona. So in my head, I viewed it as instead of it being Romeo and Juliet, it's a play of Romeo and Juliet, and something happened to Juliet. So now the only person that can play the part is the janitor that cleans up the place.
We gotta get Kyle in here. Let's go.
So, but it was a comedy, and it went over very well. And in fact, so growing up without a dad, I relied heavily on my grandfather for how to act like a man kind of stuff. And he was never really impressed with me, and he kind of hated. I always turned everything into a joke, or I always tried to act and that kind of stuff. But he went to go see that, and that was a very good moment. he told me he was proud of me when he saw the rest of the crowd laughing, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it was really cool.
Kind of give you that little pat on the back that you didn't think you wanted, but
Yeah.
it kind of came good. My dad's a lot of the time in the same way. My dad has been one of those kind of guys who he teaches me shaking hands, looking people in the eye, not being a dickhead.
Yeah.
That no matter who the person is, you sit, like my dad could talk to anybody about anything for no matter what you're doing. And that's something that he's always instilled in me, is that doesn't matter black, white, woman, child, whoever it is, you can sit and talk to them and make them smile or laugh and have a good time with them.
Yeah.
And he's always instilled that in me. And especially, coming out in Vegas, you've got this big melting pot of an area, which, Reno's in its own way similar in that sense, where it's a big melting pot where you can get a little bit of everything anywhere. And back to the play, so you get the bug. I would imagine after it going off like how it did. Do you decide to just keep going for more plays and then
So,
something like that?
So I, after high school, I tried out for a couple of different things. I actually moved to Wisconsin and recorded a rap album for a little bit.
As one does.
Yeah, we played a couple of shows and they went really, really well. But then the guys I was making music with kind of fell apart, and so I moved. We were supposed to move to L.A., but then that fell through, so we just decided to go back to Vegas.
Okay.
Life, as it does, it gets in the way. But I got a really good job, and then I was trying to pursue different things, taking classes and stuff, and then the recession happened, 2008, and now I went from having a decent job to scrounging through couch cushions to try to find some change and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of brought me back to my roots, where I had to get a job where I was selling meat door to door.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you've seen those trucks going around where like the guy's like, "Oh, I'm at the end of my route. I only got a couple of things on my truck. Can I show you what I got?" And, that kind of stuff. But, always being a big guy covered in tattoos and piercings, you don't want to let a 300-pound man in your house at the beginning of the day kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, that's actually where I got my idea for my first hand tattoo. It's the little puppet guy that I got on my hand. Hi, how are you? So my sales weren't doing so hot, but I figured all I need to do is get them to laugh and they'll let me in the door.
Yeah.
So I go up to somebody's house, I knock on the door, and I give them my spiel. I'm at the end of my route. I've just got a little bit of stuff left on my truck. Can I show you what I have so I don't have to bring it back to the warehouse? And they're like, "Oh, I don't know." And then I'd put up my hand. I say, "Come on, man, I've got mouths to feed. See, hi." So, and that it got them laughing. They're like, "All right, fine. I'll let my sales." They got so much better because of that stuff, and so that's kind of where it all started with that. And I would do little sketches for YouTube and that kind of thing. But like realistically, because of the way the economy was, it was a hit home situation. I need to get a job.
Yeah.
Like I'm tired of being poor. Right.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, if I wanted a bowl of cereal, you put the powder in and then you put it under the tap kind of stuff, right? And you never have like real milk.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to live that way anymore. So I found a company in Vegas that does like high-end commercial electrical work and some industrial work. So, and I got them to give me a shot, put me through an apprenticeship program, and that's where I became an electrician.
Gotcha.
So, but it's that job and those opportunities that actually brought me up to Reno, where I got to meet just a bunch of amazing people. But my electrical experience then kind of endeared me to helping out behind the scenes as like, gripping and gaffering, that kind of stuff for gaffing for productions that happen locally.
Which that's sort of how the path that I'm on currently, because I'm also an electrician.
I do know
so
that, yes.
I'm in the about to hit the 4th year of my apprenticeship. So then I say the same thing, that once I got into this field, it was more of, well, I need a job, something that pays well. And I've kind of stumbled into this. And then I thought, movie sets need electricians.
All the time.
So then I think about, and then I also go back to thinking about scrubs. A lot of the like background and kind of one-liner nurses or doctors or whoever they are, they're actually crew members that they brought in. It was like, oh, Jim's over there doing lighting. Get over here, put some scrubs on real quick. And they're the electrician on the set or the carpenter or whoever they need. So that's kind of one of those, it's a door that nobody thinks about until you kind of get a little bit more knowledge on movie sets, that you're like, you know what, they need electricians, they need plumbers, they need, you know, X, Y, and Z to be on the set. And then while you're there, you get a rapport with people, and you also let them know, I can do this part. Or, do you want me to come and act for you? Sure, I'll do it.
Exactly.
So you come to Reno. What was kind of your first like step? Well, when you get here, you've got some electrical experience under your belt. What was your next step to pursuing, or before we get to that, did you have aspirations to keep the acting bug going, or was it like, well, I'm here now, let's just continue the electrical work, and then you kind of got reminded, oh, I want to be an actor or do something in movies as well?
So, like you said, while I was going through my apprenticeship, you know, the realization of, oh, you need somebody to build sets, you need people to work on this kind of stuff. So it was after I moved to Reno, I was still in my apprenticeship. I had a really good job. I was working 10 hours a day, and then I was going to school 4 hours every other night. So I think it was like Tuesdays and Thursdays was my school nights. And so I had no room for anything else in my life.
Yeah.
And so, but my plan was, as soon as I graduated from the apprenticeship, I was going to start looking for jobs in LA, building sets, and just getting myself on a set, because I'm a pretty personable guy. You know, people like me. I've always got a positive attitude. So, like, something could happen from there.
Yeah.
So I think it was 8 months before I was set to graduate, I actually met my now wife. So we met randomly on Tinder, of all places, because I didn't want to meet anybody at the bar kind of stuff. But when we met, we meshed so well that it seemed like an opportunity not to pass up.
Yeah.
So, but I told her about what I wanted to do and that kind of stuff. But because we were married and we bought a house, it kind of fell through of moving away.
Yeah.
So then, right before the 2020 pandemic, she got hurt really bad. And after I got out of my apprenticeship, I was working, instead of 50, 60 hours a week, they jumped me up to 80, 90 hours a week. And you're just like, you don't want to let anybody down. You want to let people, like, you want to help people do their jobs, and you want to make sure that the job gets done.
Yeah.
And so, like, I was letting everything else kind of go to the back burner, and I was getting burnt out. I wasn't happy with what I was doing. And then she gets hurt, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I call my job and I say, look, my wife's hurt. She couldn't even walk because of what was going on with her. So I said, I'm going to take a couple of weeks off just to make sure she's okay. And then the second I didn't have to go back there, it was like a weight was lifted.
Yeah.
And like I had all of these realizations of, like, what I'm doing is not worth what it's doing to me.
Yeah. So
her and I talked about it a little bit, and I told her, like, I want to get back into doing open mics, and I want to get back on stage and perform, and I need to let this side of myself kind of out there. And so she was fully supportive. So, like, I'd make sure she was good to go with whatever she needed, and then at night I'd drive into Reno from Fallon, and I would do open mics, and I would meet with people, and during this time that I was off and not working, I had remembered, like, 9 years ago, I had this idea for a mobile game show where like the whole thing's self-sustaining. It's got the buzzers, it's got the lights, it's got the sounds. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend at the time, I was excited because I had this idea, and I wanted the situation of you could walk into a grocery store, turn down the aisle, and bam, you're on a game show. Like, how cool would that be?
Yeah.
And when I told her about this, she looked at me and said, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard."
Right.
And I'm just like, wow, that
You don't
just,
know me
that's
at
just
all.
the wind out of my sails kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So like, I kind of forgot about it, but now I've got knowledge under my belt on how to build a thing like that, and I've got a supportive wife that's like, you know what, whether or not it's going to work, just do it. Why not?
Do it, yeah.
And so during this whole time I didn't have a job to go to, I built this thing, and I built it in I think 5 days, and it was working perfectly the whole nine. And so I start bringing it out to different open mics. I brought it to Coffee and Comics. I brought it to the Polo Lounge. I brought it to a couple of different places, and people were loving it. They were loving me just being like full-on game show host guy. During the performance, I would pause for a commercial break, and I would just stand there in silence, and then people would start to talk, and I'd be like, "Don't talk to any of the commercials."
Guys,
Yeah.
come on.
But it was just a room, like a complete room. Everybody was supposed to be silent. Like, to me, that's just absurd, and it's funny, and it's great, and people had a
Yeah.
great time with it. And one of my favorite aspects of it was the prize you would get on the at the end. It was just the word prize cut out in foam, and it was all colored in glitter and sparkles and whatnot, because it was fabulous. It's a fabulous prize.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Once again, I'm not lying to you. You're getting a fabulous prize, So that was going all right, and I actually got a call to be in a show in June, because somebody wanted it, and then the next week, the pandemic shut everything down,
Yep.
and so I'm like, well, I tried, but I ended up finding a different job at a place that I had previously done some work for this up here in Reno, but they weren't doing anything here. They shipped everybody out to Fremont. So, but right before we got shipped out to Fremont, I had answered a Facebook post of this guy in Fallon that's like, I want to make an 80s style slasher movie. And I'm like, well, I love 80s slashers.
Yeah.
I'm all about some 80s horror. So we talked with that guy, and we figured out how to do it safely with the social distancing and everything like that. And the killer, he's in a mask anyways the entire movie.
Yeah.
And he wanted me to play the killer, so that's great. But now I'm working out in Fremont about 60 hours a week, and then driving home to go film Friday night and Saturday night, and then driving back to Fremont on Sunday morning. It was it was insane.
Very taxing, yeah.
During the entire pandemic. So they'd spend all week, Monday through Thursday, filming all of the things that they could without me there, and then I'd come in for Friday nights and Saturday nights, and it was so grueling and so taxing, but it was just so much fun being on a set and being able to perform and being able to act with people. Most of the people in that movie, they had never acted at all. It was just,
Sure, yeah.
We've got a bug, we want to make a thing, let's make a thing.
Yeah.
So it was, we had a goal to have the premiere on Halloween night 2020, and through blood, sweat, and tears, we made it work, and we got it done. So, but that's like kind of how I got back into the acting bug.
And what's the name of that movie?
It's called Dollface: The Terror on Route 9.
Check it out.
It's on
You
Tubi.
guys know you want to.
Check it out on Tubi. Yeah, spoiler alert, I'm the killer.
By the way, he's the killer.
But
so.
from there, the wife had gotten better. She's, able to walk again. And so she decides that she doesn't want to go back to her day job, which was working from home selling, insurance. She was like an insurance broker kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So she wasn't happy doing that. She wanted to find something else to do. So she started helping out with these plays in Virginia City, which we met with the people putting those plays on. Amazing people, just super awesome people. But like, they're people with day jobs, but they have these other passions.
Yeah.
And that seems to be like a common theme of like, just because, this is where we are in our lives doesn't mean we can't be creative. We can't do the things that we want to do. And it was really inspiring to see. So there was a play that I couldn't be in because I was still working out of town, but the director liked me so much that her next play, she wrote in this part for a juggler, and because she knew I could juggle. So, and I'm like, I'd love to do it. Let's make it happen. And so she hands me like the first draft of the script, and I'm reading through it, and the guy's kind of like bragging about himself, and like, you know, he can juggle anything, and he's a really good knife thrower too. And I'm like, I don't know how to throw knives. And she's like, oh, it's okay. You don't have to. Like, it's just fun to have in the script. And I'm like, I'm of that kind of mind where you can't, if you introduce a gun in the first act, it has to go off by the third act.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
So you can't bring up knife throwing and then not do it.
Right.
And so I talked to the wife about it, and she's like, don't cut anything off. So I found a set of SOG knives that were, they're sold as a 3-pack.
Okay.
And I already know how to juggle. I think I can make this work. And so for 3 months, I taught myself how to juggle knives. And I didn't tell the director this because I didn't want to get her hopes up. But then 2, I was a little afraid that I would tell her about it, and then she'd tell me that I can't do it.
Right.
So, but for 3 months, I taught myself how to juggle these knives. I'd throw them in the air and catch them, and if I dropped them, I'd have to just start over, back from one. You know, we have hardwood floors, so I'm pretty sure I almost got a divorce because my wife
You
just
can't screw up those hardwood floors.
Well, it wasn't so much the floors; it was the noise. It was the noise. So
just clink, 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 clink.
But after 3 months, it was actually really good not dropping them. And then during this time. The wife had also gotten involved with Mad Wife Productions, working as a PA for a lot of their projects. So I'd be, you know, I would get involved gripping for them, moving lights, moving stands, just setting up stuff, whatever the directors wanted. And then while we were on breaks, you know, I don't like being bored. I don't like standing around. So that's all I'm doing is I'm juggling my knives. And MJ Paulo from Mad Wife Productions, she saw me doing this, and she's like, I have to put that in a movie. And so they have a feature, it's called Carpe Diem, and there's like a drone shot of them in a trailer park, and I'm just juggling giant sabers. Like, it was really cool to get that in the movie.
Yeah. It was a skill that you didn't know you
could
needed.
market. You know, so
and then now you've got it in your back pocket. And
Yeah.
if anybody needs a juggler, right there.
Exactly.
Also, can you juggle knives?
yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
a little double threat.
But back to the play, I had also built this knife board where it's made out of a pallet. It's painted pretty nice. It's got like a dress theme on it, and in the back there's the same knives that I have that I can juggle with, but they're welded on these plates that are hinges. So I pretend to throw a knife at the front of the board, but somebody's in the back of the board flipping the hinge down, and it actually looks like I threw a knife.
Yeah.
So the director was very impressed that we could add that as an element into the play. That one, it's actually up on YouTube. I think I've also got it on my Instagram somewhere as well. So, but I had a
And what was
blast
the
with that.
name of it again?
So the name of that play was Murder at the House of Dolls.
Okay.
It was a murder mystery. The entire play takes place as a behind the scenes what's going on at this sort of burlesque playhouse.
Okay.
And then at the very end of the play, it's the actual burlesque show where they're doing their acts for you. They're singing, they're dancing,
Gotcha.
juggling, knife throwing, telling jokes. And then during that, one of the characters gets murdered, and now the audience has to...
It's a murder mystery.
The audience has to figure out who did it and why. So
Okay.
it's a little interactive, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But that was over at the Piper's Opera House in Virginia City, which if you've never been there, there's so much history on that stage. And
Yeah.
I feel honored that I've got to perform on that stage.
Put your stamp on it a
Yeah.
little bit. And I see the theme with dolls kind of coming in with the horror,
It was purely coincidental. Purely coincidental.
which kind of sends just a little shiver down my spine. I hate dolls.
Yeah?
I hate them so much.
Oh.
I know that if I see a little doll coming in, I can kick it. It's fine. My dad one time when I was a kid, and not to put him on blast or nothing, but he went to Mexico, came back with a little marionette.
Mm-hmm.
It was the creepiest thing that I have ever seen. And he tells this story all the time because he was so excited The bus was about to leave. He sees this marionette doll. He's like, oh, I've got to get that for my kid. Brings it back home. The second he pulls it out, what is that thing? And it stayed in my bedroom for a week, and I had to get rid of it. Can't do dolls, but I'm not against horror films.
No.
So now that you've kind of, you've got a new repertoire and you've done some more horror-ish type movies and you're working with Mad Wives, do you think I'll stick with the grip and helping with the like kind of behind the scenes production, or do you still say, let me get in front of the camera?
So it's definitely I love just being there. Like, I don't care what I'm doing while I'm there. It's so awesome to be there.
Yeah, being on
so
the movie
like
set.
when they've since we've met them, they've done they did 2 full-length features that we were fully involved with. Like, the wife and I were there pretty much the entire time. And then they've done another feature that, because of other commitments, we weren't able to make it to.
Sure.
But it's always been just well, I'm going to go in and help grip. I'm going to hold a light stand. I'm going to put Novas wherever they need them. I'm going to help them. Like, I'm going to listen to Andrew and exactly how he wants the scene, lit, and which direction he wants that stuff. But then we did negotiate. Like, the end goal is for me to be in front of the camera as well, because I think I've got a decent enough personality. I think I'm my wheelhouse as far as taking direction and giving people not exactly what they wanted, but what they didn't know they wanted.
Sure. Yeah.
I think I can do that. So it was a little bit of both. Like, I want to help you out behind the scenes, but I also want to be in front of the camera. And then with indie films, I can't do that thing where you sit down. Like, you do your scene, and now you're just sort of sitting down waiting for them to call you back.
They'll hurry up and wait.
Like, I love being on independent film projects where, like, yes, right now you're in front of the camera, but as soon as they yell cut, now you're moving this light, now you're moving these sandbags, now you're setting them up for the next shot. So, like, that kind of filmmaking is the things that I love to do.
Yeah.
But
whether it be behind and front, but just to be a part of the entire production of everything.
Yeah.
And would you like a little bit more?
Oh, no, I'm good right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you're kind of, being a part of the movie sets, the production, everything, the general question that I like to ask as you're doing everything, what's next for you? Do you have anything planned? Because you're with Mad Wives, you're kind of finding your niche, what you like to do while you're here and doing everything. What is sort of next on the docket for you?
So, my wife loves volunteering us for literally everything. And so last year she got us involved with this haunted house that happens in Reno. Going in, I didn't think it was going to be like somebody's garage, but I thought it was going to be like maybe 1,000 square feet at the most, kind of a thing. So we were doing work with Mad Wife, and then she had gotten us involved with these people over at the Dark Corner Haunt, where when I met them and saw like the level of quality of artistry that they're doing with their props and their effects and their sounds and their lights, like it's like, if you've ever been to a haunted house, like I'm sure most people have, it's actually a play, but you're not sitting in your seat, you're walking through, but it's still a play. So like that kind of like spoke to me a lot. And so it's another avenue where I got to work with my tech side, and I got to work with my acting side, and then I got to work a little bit on the prop making side, or coming up with ideas of like, oh, it would be so cool if we could do this thing.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know a lot about like sculpting or dealing with latex or any of that stuff.
Sure.
But these people are the very type of people, like, if you want to learn that, we will teach you. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I need right now. So I went in thinking that we were going to have like maybe 1,000 square feet, and then they tell me that they get the National Bowling Stadium in downtown Reno. And so we ended up having to build a 14,000 square foot haunted house on that property,
Sheesh.
which it was intense and stressful and crazy. And then,
Yeah.
so, you know, in something small, you probably have like 12 actors. I think we had like 62 people
Wow.
fully involved.
Yeah.
You know, and then having to tell this entire giant story, and it was just so cool to be a part of. And then, you know, I told them about like my acting and background and this and that, and they asked me if I'd, you know, be willing to do like the rules video, because every ride you've ever been on, there's the keep your hands on the ride at all the times, that kind of stuff. So I was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. So they told me the full story of what the haunted house is supposed to be, which was, it was supposed to be a store that's going out of business for one reason or another, and like so they're trying. That's why they're letting people in there, but you know, you're gonna run into haunted stuff, and you're gonna run into monsters, you're gonna run into all sorts of crazy things.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I put on my big old hat, and I put on a southern drawl, and I put on my best salesman pitch. Come on down to our store, we're going out of business. You know, but it was so cool to just be an absolute part of that.
Yeah.
But now, that was our first year. We had 10,000 people walk through the doors,
Wow.
which for a first year haunt is apparently insane.
Pretty good. Yeah.
So we went to this place called Transworld in St. Louis, Missouri. Where it was in early February. It's where all the haunted house the people in the industry gather together to like either sell the new stuff that's going to go, or they like try to teach classes of like what you can and what you should be doing to like elevate either your client base or empower your actors, or to make your effects look so much cooler.
Gotcha. Like a convention for the haunted house areas.
Right. But when we got there and people asked us like, oh, what haunted house are you with? And we told them Dark Corner in Reno, and they're like, whoa, we actually heard about you guys. I'm like, but really? You know, like these are people that have been in the industry for like decades, and like their haunted houses are like known throughout the country.
Yeah.
You know, so like for somebody to look me in the eye and tell me that they've actually heard of us and were impressed with, you know, what we did, like that's insane.
Yeah.
It just crazy. So that kind of gave me a boost of like, I think I'm on the right path. So currently, the owners of the haunted house, Holly and Dustin, they're expanding from 14,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet.
Gotcha.
Just basically doubling the size of the haunted house, and then we're having to do all of the building. You know, right now we're in mid-April, but you know, opening weekend I think is the last weekend of September. So like, right now, my main focus is going to be helping build and helping design sets and character development, and just you know, making sure that we're ready for that kind of a thing, because it's just so massive.
Make it a lot more immersive with the extra space you've got.
And from the storyline ideas that Holly has already kind of laid out for us, it seems like it's going to be just so cool, because like, you know, you go to a haunted house where it's just, you know, rigged up props that like kind of jump out at you, and like that's cool, and I love that kind of stuff. But like, Holly's idea is a lot more actor based. So you need somebody that's going to be able to commit to the role and sell exactly like not only what the character's motivation is, but what they want you to do without making you feel like you're in a haunted house being told to go down that hallway because that's the way you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
Like, so, but I think the way, you know, her mind works and Dustin's mind works with all of the elements together, I think it's going to be a great experience for anybody walking through.
Yeah.
Like, they're kind of going to forget that they're not in the national bowling. They're going to forget that they're in the National Bowling Stadium. They're going to think they're in this like immersive world.
Yeah.
So,
That sounds amazing.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
Really
and
glad you got to put your stamp on it.
we need actors, so I know you like doing some acting.
I do like doing some acting. We'll discuss that a little bit more, because I do like doing that. And one more thing, kind of before we get you out of here, we were talking about how you do some things with Coffee and Comics.
So while working with Madwife, my wife kind of took on the role of product placement. So she got in touch with Alex and Ray, the guys that own Coffee and Comics, and they were just so supportive about, helping projects or being a part of projects local to Reno. And so they've always kind of like donated, gotten like a shirt or a cup or something on screen.
Yeah.
But they developed a little bit of a relationship with my wife, so they just love us when we walk in. But we've I said, we got tied in with Bohemian Burlesque. Bohemian's actually going to have their show at Coffee and Comics on May 4th. So I'll actually be performing myself. So.
As in the kind of like how we talked to hosting, or you have your own.
I'll be co-hosting, and then I'll have my own act. I think at the very end of the show for sure.
Awesome. So best way to close it out.
I'm a 300-pound man, but I've got some moves I can bust out for sure.
Hey, it's kind of been a running theme recently in this show of Chris Farley. Like, who else commits than a, big man like Chris Farley?
Oh yeah, and I look good in a little coat.
Yeah, well, big man in a little coat, you can't go wrong.
Exactly.
All right, Eddie, before we get you out of here, go ahead and promote all of your socials one more time where anybody can find you, anything you've got coming up, so people can look out.
So once again, I'm on Instagram at Eddie Blake Comedian. I'm on TikTok as Comedian Eddie Blake. Actually, in a new feature from Dylan Brown. He's another local filmmaker. It's called Ghost. I think they're gonna premiere that one at the Cordillera Film Festival, which is a festival that happens here in Reno, Nevada. But they're also looking to have a premiere showing for the public sometime in June. I want to say around June 17th.
Okay.
And then we've branched outside of Reno as well, so I'll be in a feature called Triple Xmas. It's a loving story about a killer Santa Claus. We filmed that one while we were out in Missouri. But that one's hopefully coming out December of this year. So, yeah, we just more movies, more haunted houses, more projects, the whole nine, man.
Yeah, more of anything that can keep people entertained.
So I'm loving what Reno has right now as far as filmmakers. It's people have projects and they're not going to wait for the big Hollywood studios to come knocking. They're going to make their stuff.
Yeah.
And like I'm fully here to support and help out wherever I can, if it's behind the camera or in front of the camera. And if you need a knife juggler, you need a joke teller, or you just need somebody to Hollywood a silk just to get your lighting right. I'll do this all day. I might crack a couple of jokes or sing a song while I'm doing it, but I'll do it.
At least you'll be entertained while lighting up the whole area.
Oh, yeah. I do light up a room.
In more ways than one. Well, Eddie, thank you once again for being here. I appreciate you kind of telling us your story and kind of going down the rabbit hole.
Oh, man, I appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
Of course, thank you. And you guys heard it here. Go ahead and follow Eddie on everything you can. Remember to follow us on all of our social media. Stephen Longley for me, Longley's Line on all of our social medias, Instagram, YouTube. Remember to follow the studio space at Light Styles Studios. And we'll see you guys next week.
Good. Awesome.